Hearts of Iron 4 is a grand strategy World War II game in which you can commit war crimes on other nations, instigate coups and dismantle their governments, or even restore countries to their glorious times. But today, I'm not gonna do any of that. You see, I play a series of Democracy A to Z, where I play every starting nation as the democratic path, which objectively is the weakest one. And the country it has hit today is Costa Rica. You might ask where it is on the map. It's right over here. The game pushes you to basically conquer the world, but I am not going to do that, as I am not a fan of lobotomizing myself. Instead, we will conquer the seas. And there is a lot of ways to fight in this game. Most important, on land, of course. If you can't really fight on land, well, what are you doing? But as we are a country that is so far away from everyone and everything that might happen to us, we won't have to worry about land. That's why I decided to take the strategy of essentially being a pirate. Let's get into it. So we begin, as I said, on a continent far away from everything, with a whopping one division that were 2 dudes in. We're very lucky that we're not gonna be doing land warfare much. Thanks to Road to 56 mod, we start getting our dockers through the focus tree, and I get straight into researching submarines with a little bit of mine warfare on the side. Because if I cannot have a big fleet, well, why would you have? We get our first event about the elections, and we take the Democrats leaning to the left side, but as it is a democratic campaign, we stick to our values and remain democratic. In the early times, not a lot of things are happening, so I focus all the Costa Rican economy and research team on making submarines that will take the ungodly amount of not only convoys later on in the game. On the world, also not a lot of changes other than South American civil wars. And with the good use of national focuses, I am also able to get hulls for submarine from 1940 while still being stuck in the Stone Age of 1936. I guess the great Costa Rican mines are very good at technologies that are used to kill civilians. But we are not so bad civilization after all, since we are gonna let women get total equality, which is totally not only because I will get the extra manpower that will let us raid and pillage even more. No, we are just the good blue guys. Further in time, more civil wars erupt where small little independent Soviet republics that are totally independent fight against their brethren. Do you also know what might be the independent Homie Republic, which I will do a world conquest as if you manage to hit 3k subs. So I suggest you subscribe if you want to see a random person on the internet suffer. But it's not gonna be democratic, so I would rather gouge my own eyeballs before I had to do so. And we on the other side work as a hub for every country, encouraging international trade to
definitely not interrupt and blow up hundreds of thousands of civilians later on.
Whilst nothing was going on, I also remembered about the mechanic that the Götterdämmerung DLC implemented, which was the facilities, especially the naval one, which it is probably the first time I've ever built one. It will take a few times for it to build though, as we are funneling each and every resource we can find in our pathetic country, and we forcefully shove it into dockyards. I also wasn't the most sure of how safe we will be, as I saw that the British were starting to bow down to the Axis side in this game, and the other Central American lands, well, they were looking kinda sassy towards me. I guess randomizing the whole world wasn't such a great idea. Hence the massive militarization of the Costa Rican pirates and conscripting whole 0 extra units of the fat birds, because I had to spare every single man to be able to man our soon to be ready 1940 war submarines. I sighed a breath of relief though when I saw that Mexico was going into democratic civil war, and I was happy that I left my country still undefended, which turned out to be a grave mistake, but we will get to that in the future. As I tired out the naval part of the focus tree, and by that I mean the only good part of the tree, which is realistically the dockyard part, because who in the world cares about extra research speed for destroyers or carriers? That's why we go back to the democratic tree to burn the torch and get that sweet manpower in the end. But in the meantime, get to the manpower part, we have to join the knockoff allies, where Canada, yeah, fucking Canada, at least it's one another democratic ally. As the researchers are so eager of killing civilians, we get 1940 submarine hull in 1936. I also let them find out about the mine warfare to make a bit weaker submarines, gun-wise at least, in the future, but equipped in naval mines, blowing enemy ships without that interaction. I also spied on the Honduran Commonwealth that got a bit aggressive and invaded well-known El Salvador. So I finally recruited a few more angry birds and into the army to have at least a scaring force, so they think we are strong as fuck, but in reality we're just as brittle as glass pane in Minecraft. And somewhere in February, we've got our first ever Costa Rican submarine ship, the one, of many. And when more of them started to gather, I began to exercise them for, extra bit of pain they could inflict on the poor trading monkey buccaneers. As there were also no more interesting democratic focuses, because, let's face reality, they never give you good buffs, other than fucking subversive, like some shit I don't even remember now. So I just turned back into the economy tree to get few more cities and few more mills. After a few months of our brilliant researchers got a hold on to devastating mines, we armed an underwater ship in those and very big guns to shoot a ton of mines on every coast that we would operate on. And I got myself a bit few more admirals, which are all gonna get put to good use. Spoiler, most of them are gonna be forget about after approximately 5 seconds. I built a navy facility in September 1938 and then got straight into researching anechoic tiles, as they are the core part of future submarines, giving them big bonuses to essentially never being seen by the giant enemy fleets we will have to face, whilst killing the merchant civilians. I also started on the exclusive research of the Route 56 mod, as it gives buffs to fleets, so, why wouldn't I use that? And then I saw that our democratic ally that has been sleeping all the game has woken up and chosen violence against himself. The Confederate States of America went into a civil war, which was not the idea of America in this playthrough, but game is game. Their civil war was rather long, and during it, I got hit with the good neighbor policy from Brazil. Well, thank you, man, thank you. Nothing particularly interesting was happening outside of the mass production of live exterminating submarines until the call to war from Canada called. We, of course, as a great ally, saved the game first and then joined the war. And as the USA were giant dicks about this little strip of Panama that they controlled, they just wouldn't let my ships through. Both the ships and divisions had to sail all around the fucking continent to be able to engage
in war criminal activities.
A few days into the war, I was also greeted with the French capitulation world news event. So yeah, there goes our first ally. And it didn't take them long ago to start charging into African colonies, because as you know, the United Kingdom's AI in this game is brain rotted from all the liri-li-la-ri-la elephants in the desert. They would rather send 23 squadrons of fully manned marshals on 1000% attrition into Africa than to do something else. I also got my anechoic tiles researched and started to do one of the worst special projects in the game, the midget submarines. I mean, yeah, they're eye cheaper, but the range debuff is so not worth it. And after our glorious bastards got around the continent, we finally started our main objective of the campaign. They weren't dying as flies yet, only because we had so few submarines, but it was about to skyrocket after some time. Also, thanks to Chilean separatist movements in colonized lands, Belize got birthed into the realm to fight against their past overlords. And don't be fooled by how the domination looks like on the sea, as submarines aren't supposed to give you domination, unless it's dominating in war crimes. I've even thought of a naval invasion with my dog-ass divisions on Guyana. Who and why would anyone put guys in the Guyana, right? What even is Guyana? Turns out, of course, the fucking Brits do. In fact, I had to fight them so fiercely with force attack that 90% of Costa Rican population almost melted in those few divisions. But ultimately, the stupidity of the AI took them out of the port and I just walked in there as nothing happened. Turns out it was not a good operation overall, as the separatists were cooking their resistance in there, so I decided to give up the land to France and let them deal with that, as I had literally not a droplet of manpower left and I had to go save Canada whatsoever. And there were big problems with that, you see. My army is utterly trash and is literally unable to fight on land, but the submarines are sailing, so it was a matter of luck. Like, I would say how many convoys we would sink before the entire Wehrmacht shows up. I must say they got a pretty big landing strip on the New Scotia and Brunswick, but somehow we managed to stop them, and it didn't take long before we were able to push them back, since the only food they had was the rotten corpses of their friend laying deceased next to them. I had also been sleeping on the job of rewarding my admirals, as they did such a great job killing innocent people, but I woke up and finally gave them the medals they deserved, which was to be even more affecting to blow trade ships in half. I also opted for thickening of my dear fuckboy divisions, because as it is possible to choke out the UK with submarine tactics, the Germans wouldn't be so eager to starve out. It was kind of a long time, and since we weren't strong enough to push them out completely and they didn't have the supplies to push us out, I could feel us sinking more as we were blowing up the Romanian convoy too now. And at this point the statistic says we sank around 800 convoys, and I'm pretty sure it resets every now and then as as you will see in the future. I also set a goal for this campaign. Win conditions of this game is to either sink 10,000 convoys or capitulate to one of these nations. But we will see. And after I set these wars, the Stealthy Brits almost ended our campaign as they have landed on the shores of Quebec. And I have no idea how these few heroic Canadians managed to live it through until my brave birds came into action, but a medal for them should be given. We managed to pull some encircling tactics with the Canadians arm to arm, and we truly saw how malnourished were the people that managed to stay on the New Brunswick area. Other than that, we sank even more Romanian convoys, made an entire new pack of soldiers called Hell Marines, who were filled with, well, Marines and a couple of artillery. Although before I could even put them out, we already pushed the Axis completely out of Brunswick and they were only in Labrador. But there was a new looming threat on me. The stinky Honduran cooperating with Mexicans were doing some shenanigans and justified on whole Central America. I thought it would have taken them a bit longer, you know, and I naively tried to invade one island more, but they just declared war instantly on us, and I had to forcefully deploy our Hell Marines. Well, straight into hell. You know, I thought it went fine until they pressed the doom button of attack and our neighbor got basically squashed with no resistance. And with their full armies on our front, it was basically impossible to defend our lands, especially that the Canadians decided to stand next to us and watch us burn to crisp, whilst being on last stand. And so the Costa Rica that was supposed to last 1,000 years got overrun by the communist forces. But they still should fear us as we didn't lose a single submarine. We did lose few divisions, but they weren't even that good, so I'm not really sad about it. Also, at this point, we've taken lives of thousands of people, as the statistics show that we've sank around 2,000 convoys. And as they weren't really strong on Labrador, I switched my submarines to raid coast of inland. Oh, and raised we did, engaging in the most hardcore missions like this, and still managing to kill civilians and escape without a shot. I mean, that is just, you know, some kind of medal for us. And that instantly spiked our convoy sinking missions to 4,000. I guess we are almost done with the main objective then. But I must say that it wasn't really sustainable, as the British had just such a massive fleet, we couldn't repair too much, so I had to finally give up the pirating of Britain. And I came back to Central America for some loot and gold, in the form of civilians' blood. We also researched better submarines, as we had some kind of economy that we had few dockyards, I don't know where, so we started producing 1944 submarine hulls in 1942. Then some people would say that tragedy struck. We got our freedom demanded from the United States, and I looked thoroughly on the proposition, and one of them would drag my whole faction into war with the United States. I would still be occupied and probably left dead at this point, or I could collaborate, get profited, and continue my sinking mission. And collaborated I did. Only a few bad things happened, as we were puppets, so we had to pay tribute in form of factories, but not dockyards. So our war machine was still on track, and also we weren't a democracy anymore, just an oligarchy. But no fear, guys, we did change it in the future. Well, what now, we might ask? I guess it was just a peaceful period. The United States of America joined the Axis. Okay, I guess we switched sides. I'm sure none of the thousands people would be mad at us for sinking their families, right? Although I wasn't fast enough to even be a part of Canadian incursion, but they did tire out every single Irish convoy. But their drunkenness and overall madmen didn't let me land over there, so I had to find yet other martyr which I could fight. And that person was Spain. At least talking about our involvement of 3 not even fully supplied divisions. And yet again, checking the convoy raiding status, it for some reason went down to 2k convoys. So I'm not even sure at this point if we sank 6,000 or more, I don't know, but we for sure did kill a lot of innocent life. And you know, to get more war score and get closer to being freed, I had to fight in Spain. But this bibliotech cretin of AI had zero interest of supporting me, and I ended up melting my whole 2 divisions. And to get more equipment, I asked our dear friend Mexico, because as you know, they became our best friend after completely burning our country to last crisp. But they decided to supply the war machine with guns, for some reason. And their gunnery boosted my morale so much, I started to push with force attacks and got my last divisions encircled in Spain like an imbecile and just lost my whole army. I sacked few more guns and they straight up declared war on us. Like, what the fuck? What even is this AI at this point? So you tell me you just supplied me all of your guns to then attack me and possibly steal all of the guns back? Like, what the fuck are you smoking? And as we were supposed to be protected by Americans, they straight up just started losing against the fucking Mexicans. Holy shit! I also had the urge to check another batch of convoys raided, and it said what, 300? Like, am I even sinking the convoys at this point, or the statisticians are just lying to get my dopamine up? I wanted to rearrange my organs when I saw the AI doing the most fucked up and pointless naval invasions, but you know, it's the America, they love naval invasions. As I had nothing to do, I blatantly asked USA for a bit of land, and they actually accepted, which gave me hope of conscripting Cubans to fight for Costa Rica. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's the reality. With the Cubans, we started to sneak in the coast of Mexico, gaining ourselves more autonomy, which led to our independence later on. It was not so far for us to become a colony that would take few of our factories back to us. We did cut the Mexicans in two and seized Yucatan, and on our way to our land, I asked America for lands in the Central America, which they somehow accepted, and after capitulation of all Central American nations outside of Panama, we were the only owners of Central America, and we could unite our nations, although we weren't independent yet, so we couldn't do it. But we were a colony already, which has made the game go a bit more smoother for us, until real tragedy struck. Hello back. You might ask, why are we in here? Well, that's because yesterday I played for around 3 hours. Today I played for around, I don't know, 1.5, something about that. When I ended this, it was 1945, you can see there. This file, as I say, approximately 1.1.5, and it was like up until 1948, as you can see here. I was playing, and then for some reason everything went pitch black. My computer restarted. I boot up the computer again. I see the file fucking corrupted. I cannot do anything with it. This just says that I'm sorry, but fuck you. Pretty fucking nice that I lost 1.5 hour of fucking great. But I lost 1.5 hour for basically nothing, so that you cannot see it. So I don't even know how I can voice over it. You can see that I do have screenshots in here that I have been playing 1948. I had big ship. I was sinking their convoys over and over again. They lost a bunch of men. Costa Rican theater like 1945. And yeah, that was quite unfortunate fucking enough. But what can I do? Basically, as I said, I had no divisions. I started to pump all of my mills into infantry equipment and sending it into USA. Whilst that was happening, I was raiding a bunch of convoys from Japan to the point that they were starving in their own island. It wasn't such a long time breaking free, as each land list I sent to the US, I gained around 400 autonomy, and I was also able to get equipment very quickly. When I pumped myself to a dominion, I also started to push out units, as they didn't steal so much of my manpower anymore. And when I did so, I started to participate in real conquests like Spain or South America. I mean, you could guess it went pretty horrible at first, but gave hope for people of Costa Rica in achieving freedom, which we did. And we reconstituted the Federal Republic, gaining loads of manpower, thus allowing me to finally send some of our Hell Marines to a bigger front that was China. And all this land you see is after the naval invasion I did. And I also went back to democracy. I mean, we reached the point that no one could really stop us, especially that the divisions got stronger and China was supplyless. And although mainland China fell, we still had to get to their little stupid island, which for some reason my massive submarine fleet wasn't able to get enough supremacy, so I had to drag the other fleet that I stole in one of a peace deal a while ago. But we finally did manage to end them, and I spread the lands evenly and very fairly to my allies and myself, of course, for that sweet Chinese conscripts. One of the last things to do was to annihilate Japan, which USA was already on, and we did provide some additional casualties through convoy raiding, and we got ourselves on the island too, ending the war against our own old fucking allies. I did try to give it evenly, thus I gave Canada to the US and UK, I took Japan for myself and took the little Caribbean islands, and I did give India to the most glorious vassal, the Thunder Dragon Empire or Kingdom of Bhutan. Last nation to fall were the Argentinians, who broke somehow from our faction earlier on and decided to take on the whole world, but as you can see, it did not go that well. I must say, that was pretty nice campaign, I liked it, and the whole puppet stage was a bit thrilling, but I'm sorry for losing a big portion of the material. But as you can see in the background, I did play all the time, I didn't cheat or anything, but yeah, very sorry for the inconvenience. Which, like, what can I say more? Thank you for watching, guys, and see you next time.